Good morning, everyone. I'm John, for those who haven't met me. Nice to meet you. So about a month ago, I was out in Seattle, and I had the chance to be the officiant for one of my best friend's wedding. So like, do you have the rings? Till death do you part? Like the whole nine. And I was excited, but I was also really, really nervous. I mean, I know that my internet reverend certificate probably checked out, so that was fine. But that's a big responsibility. And it was one of my best friends in the world, so I didn't want to screw it up. And everything was going fine. I opened with this just darling montage of thoughts about love and commitment and all that kind of crap. And then I said the word fuck. And it didn't go over very well. Most of the people at the wedding, like me, were from Georgia, and the God-fearing folk in the crowd weren't so pleased with my word choice. But it ended up not mattering to me because it made the bride and the groom start to crack up. Up until that point, they had been standing there and nervously looking at each other and at me, and it wasn't because they were scared to get married, it was mostly just not wanting that many people looking at them the way that you're looking at me right now. So it cracked them up, and I just stood there, and it came to me in the moment, and so when I finished my opening statement, I was just like, guys, are you ready to get fucking married right now? And it put them at ease. There was a switch that went off in their minds, and they just relaxed and could just focus on each other and not worry about the ceremony and everything going on around them. Which brings me to my point, which is it's really important for us to always remember that we have to be speaking to the right audience, the real audience. And in that moment, the bride and groom were my only audience that I needed to worry about. A lot of times at this school, we get stuck on dissecting what's the right word or the right type or the right color to use in an ad. And oftentimes, we tend to lean toward just what we want to do, not what's right, and that's a mistake. Because as the man I'm about to introduce up here has put it before, people don't read ads, they read things they're interested in. And we should always keep that in mind. So that's just one of the many things we have a chance to learn from David Baldwin this morning. He's a man with 30 years of copywriting and creative leadership experience in advertising for countless brands at a number of agencies, including McKinney for a stint, which is near and dear to my heart. That's where I started out. He served as the president and chairman of the One Club, and during that time was the executive producer of a documentary called Art and Copy, which if you have not seen it, what the hell are you doing in this room? But there he was speaking to an audience of advertisers as well as their critics. And most recently, he is at his agency that he has co-founded called Baldwin in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he's spoken to the audiences of brands like Krispy Kreme, Burt's Bees. He's taken on important issues like the HB2 bathroom bill in North Carolina. And he's also, in his spare time, however he finds it, opened up a brewery in Durham, North Carolina called Ponysaurus, where I've had more than one beer in my time. So in the spirit of knowing your audience, I realize I've probably gone on too long already. So without any more further fucking ado, here is David Baldwin.
Can you hear me through the actual mic?
No.
Try now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We did it. And John and I are getting married. We're getting fucking married. So, everything I know about presenting is you're supposed to start with a joke. So we're going to do a little participatory joke. And when I ask you to, I want you to say knock knock. So go. Knock knock. Who's there? Thank you. Okay, so I want to talk to you about fear. That's what today's about. I'm not going to show you a reel. I'm going to show you a few things that we've done. But I also have to clear one thing up. John said, I said, people don't read advertising, they read things they're interested in. That's actually Howard Gossage said that, and I steal it constantly. So it's a really powerful idea to even put in front of clients. So and I'm a huge Howard Gossage guy. There's a couple of books about, does everyone know Howard Gossage? A couple of really great books about him. There's a documentary out about him. Definitely check him out, because Howard Gossage is a misplaced character in that he should be operating right now. Everything that he believed and did would be so relevant right now, it's insane. And if you look at him and his contemporaries, Bill Bernbach at the time and David Ogilvy, Howard was the revolutionary. Howard was the one that was doing things differently. He's a fascinating guy, and just absolutely inspirational, everything he did. So back to fear. So there are a few of you in this room who are not afraid, and that's fantastic. So just be patient with me, because there's a lot of other people in here who have this little voice in their head at all times saying things, why something is going to fail, why something isn't right, why you're going to get fired if you do it, why you shouldn't do it. That's the prevalent voice for most people. And I want to acknowledge that I'm talking about wussy ad fear. I'm not talking about fighting in Afghanistan or something. Like this is ad fear. This is career fear. There's a great book by Jerry Della Femina called From Those Wonderful People Who Brought You Pearl Harbor. That's another really great advertising book. And he talks about how he employed a guy who was actually a fighter pilot against the Nazis, who was the most afraid guy he'd ever worked with, and he didn't understand the kind of contradiction there. But you're going to be told no, you're going to be told that's a dumb idea, you're going to be told this is going to get us fired. And the one thing that I want to put forward in this meeting is that on the other side of that fear is the opportunity. That's where the opportunity always is. There is no opportunity without that feeling. And so what you actually need to do is get comfortable with the feeling. Learn to love that feeling and learn to go, this seems cool and safe and it's funny. That scares the shit out of me. Let's go this way. And that's what we do. We do that all the time. And it doesn't even mean creatively sometimes. Sometimes it's just things that that just scare the crap out of you. We always look at that. So I wanted to just kind of tell you some scary things that have happened to me, and kind of how we managed it and what we did. And so I want to start, scary thing number one is starting an agency in 2009. And I'll explain why that was scary, because it wasn't scary in 2008. That's 2008. And David goes, you know what would be fun? Let's start an agency. Let's do this thing. I was at this really great agency at the time called McKinney. I'd been there for 10 years, and we had been bought 4 times, and great experience, great place, but it was time to maybe do this on my own. So the economy happened, right? So while we were in formulation on the agency, and I went to co-founders, and I had people that I wanted to do it with, and I had a list of people that I thought were smarter than me at things that I couldn't do, this precipitous fall happened, and it was like, holy shit, what do we do? And so these are some of the headlines that happened this is the month we opened. So recession declared in US as stocks tumble worldwide. Everything was, you're gonna lose your house. That was like all these articles about you're gonna lose your house. It was, it's being called the Great Recession right now. So it was crazy. And there was an article in Adweek about us starting our agency, and the article was about agencies that started in really hard times. And this was one of the comments on it. So, can you guys see the screen well? It looks washed out where I'm standing. Does it look okay to you guys? Okay.
The lights do.
So, yeah. So I printed that out and I had that on like my wall for the first 5 years of the agency because I was like, fuck you. And we started with we had no clients. We started with a project from a company called Nortel, which no longer exists. And they declared bankruptcy first month in. They actually hired us to help them strategically manage their bankruptcy. It wasn't even creative, even though there was creative attached to it. And a year later, they sued us for the money they paid us, which was crazy. So, but that's what we did. So we all looked at each other and said, are we going to do this or not? And we decided, let's do it. Let's try it. So this is an episode of Stupid Men because we just had no idea what we were doing ever. So we just didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea. None of us, I was a good writer and I had been a creative director for 15 years. My partner, Bob Renew, could make, and this guy could build anything. He's the genius. His ability to go great fast is just alarming at how good he was. I had a very smart business person named Aaron Bredeman who I started with, and very shortly afterwards, a guy named Jerry Beaudry joined the company. And so we were all kind of good at what we did, but we had never run a business before. So I thought I would share this thing from this piece from Louis C.K. because I think it's kind of what we're talking about.
And you can all of a sudden, you can do that. You know, like in, what's the movie, Matrix?
Matrix, yeah.
When there's a helicopter and he says to her, do you know how to fly a helicopter? And she goes, wait a minute, and she just loads the program. Now I do. Well, anyone can do that. It just takes longer. Instead of being able to say, I've done this before, you say to yourself, I haven't done this before.
But I've seen it done.
But I've done other things I haven't done before.
Well.
And it came out okay. So I'm not afraid of this. The thing that you learn the most that'll help you do things you can't do yet is how to recover from failure. If you can recover from things not going well, then the worst that happens is this is going to be a total wreck, but I know how to recover.
Yeah.
I know how to be okay after I wasn't.
By the way, the worst interviewer in the world, right? He basically tried to channel Louis C.K. into another direction, and Louis went like, yeah, we're not going there. So what came out of that is Baldwin. And we have this saying of we're going to surf change. And we said, let's build an agency for the next 20 years, not for the last 20 years. And so we define ourselves as a hybrid digital advertising, mobile strategy, branding, social media thingy. And we just engage with clients through all sorts of different doors. And we have a media-only business and a strategy-only business, and we creative advertising is a thing we do. It's not the thing we do. And it has, it's allowed us, even 8 years ago when we started the company, everything's changed. And everything had changed when we opened from 8 years before that. So by the time you guys get in, I don't know, you guys are probably within a year and a half window, everybody in this room. It's going to be different again. So it's just been this crazy, awesome adventure. And our mission as a company is we have held to this since day one, is do great work for clients we believe in. We really want to believe in what we're doing. We will not just take any client. We've actually turned a lot of business down. We could be bigger than we are, but we're just not interested in it. It's a little bit of a benevolent selfishness of where we feel like if we do what we're interested in, we'll actually be more effective and better. So, and the values of the company are do great work, have fun doing it, have a great life outside of work, run a great business in that order. And so this was all written and created before we started the company. So, and it really lives in the company. And so here's the thing, being a creative dude, I don't know how to create a business plan. I have no idea. You can sort of, I think I went and downloaded like business plan, and I went, this is like 40 page. I was like, fuck, I don't know what to do with that, So what we did instead was we said, what if we have goals and values, right? You've seen the values, and we said, what if we actually align, we know how to do advertising. We know how to do marketing. We know how to do strategy. We're smart, nice people. Let's go from there. And so I want to share a couple of our goals. So on our first day, we didn't have any clients, and we were sitting at a table going, we're a national company. We are not a local agency in Raleigh, North Carolina. We are a national company. We're going to do work that gets seen. And then we all laughed, because I then took the trash out probably, So, but that was our orientation. It's still our orientation, but we just said we're going to be a national agency that's people in Sweden will go, I know those guys. That's been our goal. Another one was, again, we have worked very hard to work on things that we believe in and we get excited about. So we'll meet with anybody, and I want to look people in the eye and see what they're about and see what they believe and see what they're doing. And if it aligns, we're your agency. If it doesn't align, you're not going to like us, we're not going to like you. Let's just move on. And so, I don't want this to be mistaken for we believe in you as in you're some ecological, you have to have a sustainability story. That's not what we're talking about. It really is, can we get aligned around what you're trying to do and what you're providing jobs. You're doing these things that go way beyond just like sustainability. That said, sustainability is a really big deal to us. So, and these are our clients that we've had the good fortune to work with. You'll notice on the bottom, Ponysaurus, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, which is our own. We've actually created a couple of brands that were spectacular failures. And so they're not up there because they don't, they still don't exist. And but just lots of, you know, this is all, I always say we're the only thing that these clients have in common. So another big one for us was don't do stuff just for the money. Don't just take the money. I just think that is it can be a siren song for the wrong things. And there's a really great tension there because we also have to make money. And so, but we've just held to this. We will not take a client for the dough. We just won't do it. We'd rather get out. So, and that's something that I think people that work for us really appreciate because I'll give you actually an example of that. We were approached by a cigarette company about a year or two ago, maybe time's folding in on itself, but about a year ago. And it was actually for a smoker cessation product that they had. And so I actually got really excited about it because I was like, go where the change is needed. Like, that's where you should go, right? And I think we could do what we do for that company and have an impact. And actually, if we can help people stop smoking, like, that's awesome. But there was such a palpable atmosphere in the agency that did not want to do it, and they did not want to take that money. And they said that we totally understand that good part of it, but it's money that's coming from the bad part of it. And if you can tell me those people are going to stop trying to sell cigarettes to the Indonesians, then maybe we'll talk. And so we didn't go for it. And so I was the one that wanted to, and I listened to my culture, and we didn't do it. So, but that lives and breathes in the company. That's how we're wired. It makes us stupid business people in some ways, and it also, I think, it's just the way to live and the way to be happy. So. You don't end up working on stuff you don't want to work on. So, I also talked about creating our own brands and creating our own luck. So, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's a writer of mine years ago who used this as a justification for one of his campaigns. And I said, that's the best summation of what we do for a living that I've ever seen. And do you guys know the Shakers? There's a Shaker community in the Northeast that they make this amazing, simple designed furniture. And I just love that. I love that saying. I just love to not make something unless it is both necessary and useful. Like, that's what we do. We're solving problems. We talked about that a little bit this morning. But if it is both necessary and useful, do not hesitate to make it beautiful. That's what we do. So that's something that's very, I think, ingrained in what we do. We really pay attention to craft. And what you're going to find as you guys get into the business is there's no time for craft. You have to make the time for craft. Nobody's looking for craft anymore. You're going to have to do it yourself. A lot of things are just happening so fast that you don't have time to really craft things. So I think one of your missions and something that may be happening at the school is learn to craft faster. Like you got to increase your speed. So that's the agency, and that's what we've done. We've been Agency of the Year twice. In our first 5 years, we won Campaign of the Year twice in our first 8 years. Last year, we won Digital Campaign of the Year for something we did for Krispy Kreme, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And it's been a crazy wild ride, man. It's been really fun. So, all right, I do want to talk to you about that idea of looking and leaning into safety. This is something that I hope I'll send any one of you this chart so you can walk it into your client meetings as you guys get into the business. Being safe is actually riskier than being risky. That's just the truth. It is absolutely the truth. Unless you're talking about what's called an econometric model of direct mail, that may not be true. But in the notion of advertising, communication, design, experience, you actually need to be risky. You actually need to take risks. However, you never use the word risk with clients, ever. But I thought this was really interesting. So I have charts to prove this. There was a study done, there are a couple of studies done. This is actually, I think, funded by Cannes a few years ago. I might have the sourcing wrong, but they basically found that creatively awarded campaigns are 11 times more effective than for market share increase than non-awarded campaigns. That's an amazing stat. And if you actually read, I'm going to actually pull this out. So I think the key sentences there is, this suggests a departure from the conventional wisdom that a more creative approach is a riskier one. It's actually riskier to be boring. You're actually throwing money away to be safe. Like, just think about every ad that you skip. You know, as human beings, we're really great at pattern recognition. And I think we actually are really good at pattern recognition of knowing a commercial sucks immediately when it comes on. If you're on YouTube and something comes on, you're like, and I wait for the skip button and I hit it. Like, you just know, right? So we all do, and you're no different. You're human beings. So I think that's an amazing study. There was another one, though, that showed companies that were seen as more innovative and winning awards were actually more successful in the marketplace on the S&P. So this is actually, they had a 41% increase. So that's amazing. That's Advertisers of the Year. So companies that are being creative and actually taking risks and actually doing things that are interesting are having more success in the marketplace. So this is a fact. So now, why would you not actually try to reach people and actually take some risks? So, however, and I'm going to look at Peter. Peter can say this. You never use the word risk with a client. Don't use word risk with your creative directors as you get in the business. Don't say, this is risky. Come take a risk with me. They're looking at their house as a risk, like their mortgage is a risk. So don't use that word. Instead, try to build a case around it about why it's smarter to do this and the reasons why it might actually be more engaging. So within all of this is the idea of constraints. And I want to put forward to you guys that constraints are the engine of creativity. What you're going to see as you guys move forward is there's always a reason something can't be done. It's going to be there's not enough money, there's not enough time, the client wants us to use a dog, we have to use a dog, right? Whatever that is, they want testimonials. We got to use testimonials. Those constraints will lead to the coolest shit you've ever done in your life. That's where the opportunity is. And so don't be afraid of constraints. Constraints are getting out of that box is the most fun part of this business. It just is. And Jack White, actually, I want to just share this quote because Jack White is talking about it in terms of music, and I thought this was really interesting.
Inspiration and work ethic, they ride right next to each other. When I was a upholsterer, sometimes you're not inspired to reupholster an old chair. I mean, sometimes it's just work, and you just do it because you're supposed to. And maybe by the end, and you finish, you look and say, that looks good. That's pretty good, and that's it. And you just move on, and that's it. I mean, not every day of your life you're going to wake up and the clouds are going to part and the rays from heaven are going to come down and you're going to write a song from it. I mean, sometimes you just get in there and just force yourself to work and maybe something good will come out. Deadlines and things make you creative, but opportunity and telling yourself, oh, you got all the time in the world, all the money in the world, you got all the colors in the palette you want, anything you want. I mean, that just kills creativity.
My least favorite brief that I get is when they're like, just do something cool. It's death. That's the death brief because you don't know where to start. You don't know where to go. So I thought this is the only work I think I'm showing you. I might show you one other thing, but from the agency. So here's why I wanted to show you this because these were assignments that should have sucked. They should have been terrible. Two of these are coupons, ads for coupons, where we actually looked at the coupon, embraced the coupon, and did something that I thought was really cool. And then I want to show you something else after that I'll tell you about. So you may have already seen this, and hopefully, can you guys hear these? So thank you. The assignment on that was, we need to drive trial for a new product. We had just won the account, and the other agency had done a campaign that was this whole other thing, and they said, your first assignment, Baldwin, and as our agency is, we need to drive trial on this product. We have a coupon. We want you to do a video on Facebook delivering this coupon. Or we want to do this, we want to put this coupon on Facebook. So we said, and by the way, you have to demonstrate what the product does. And so we said, okay, we're going to embrace the before and after trope in the business, and we're going to make this coupon something really cool. Like, what can we do to make it cool? We said, instead of doing a Facebook ad with a coupon, let's do an outdoor board that we shoot on video. We create a video from it that we then run on Facebook that then gets shared. And so that's what we did. And the redemption on it was 64%. It was insane. And it was this crazy. It was a marketing story. It was like this, it got the news from the campaign, versus the campaign itself. So now I want to flash forward 3 years. We have Krispy Kreme is our client. We're AOR for Krispy Kreme. Great client. And Krispy Kreme. And I should have brought some. You guys would not be listening to me. Well, they had this promotion called Day of the Dozens, and it started on 12/12/12, which was, I think, super clever. And the idea was, on 12/12/12, you can come in, if for every dozen donuts you buy, you get a free dozen. So bring in this coupon and we'll give you a free dozen. And if you buy 10 dozen, you get 10 dozen free, right? So like for churches and for community, like if you're fundraising, like huge idea. So, but now it's 12/12/15. And they're like, it didn't work as well in 12/12/13. What do we do with this promotion? It's now 12/12/15. It doesn't make as much sense. It is Day of the Dozen still, but how are we going to get people to care about this coupon? And so, and by the way, we have no money. We have very small budget. So we started a production company 2.5 years ago. So we produce a lot of things in-house. In particular, if something is, we call it, moving at the speed of retail. Moving at the speed of retail, producing at the speed of retail, we do a lot of things ourselves. And so I'll show you the video of what we did. Some of you may have seen this. Again, like super simple, like just such a simple idea. And we took the thing that makes Krispy Kreme salivatable is the glaze and what they call donut theater. Do you guys know about, they call it donut theater? It's like, they call it donut theater where you press your nose against the glass and you watch the donuts come through the glaze. It's called donut theater. But it turned out to be one of the most successful things we've ever done for them. And it was this little coupon assignment for a promotion in December during the Christmas rush. And so again, that's how we approach things. Like, how do we turn that little thing into something freaking cool and it gets people talking and uses social media in a different way? And so that's what we did. So now, that was also Digital Campaign of the Year last year from Ad Age. So flash forward now a year later, we have a client called the Videri Chocolate Factory, which is, if you've never had it, you can buy it online. It's unbelievable chocolate, and it's all organic. It's made it's made in Raleigh at their factory, and then they distribute everywhere. But it's just so wonderful. They were 5 years old, and we do all their design. So we don't do their advertising, we do all their design. So they came to us and said, hey, I know it's December 1st, and our party's on January 7th or January 11th, but what can we do to get people to invite the community, to support the community and invite the community to come to our big party on January 12th? And we have, I think, $7,000 or something, like some crazy low amount of money. And so the one thing that Sam said, the CEO and the head chocolate maker, was, he goes, we're going to give away so much chocolate. That's what we're going to do. And he said, you know, that's what this is about. We're going to give away chocolate. And so I will show you a video of it, and I want to talk a little bit about what we did. So this is what we did. Sorry. I promise there's not that much more video.
When we opened Videri 5 years ago, we thought we were going to make a world-class chocolate factory that was a friendly, community-driven company that was going to have about 5 people that worked there, and we were going to make chocolate day and night. And now we have 27 people that work there, and we're still a community-driven organization. But did I imagine it was going to be like this? No. Videri has been embraced by this community in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the Triangle as a whole. And it's been uplifting for me personally to see the kind of people that we interact with and we do business with, from our regulars that come in every morning and get coffee, to the restaurants that we sell chocolate to, and the brewers that use our nibs and beer. Our 5th anniversary is important because we made it to 5 years. As a business, it was important to us to make a party that said thank you to everybody that has supported us. I'm making a chocolate poster where I pour a whole bunch of chocolate onto a chocolate transfer sheet, and then I smooth it out like a cake decorator, and then it hardens, and then I flip it over, and then I peel off the transfer sheet, and from that, the cocoa butter printed on that gets transferred into the chocolate, and it's a gigantic chocolate bar. It's amazing. Everybody's invited. We know we can't thank everybody in person, so we're just going to give everybody chocolate that walks in the door.
So leave the lights off for 1 second. I just want to show one thing. So we did chocolate posters. So we created these chocolate posters, and what we did, in order, the other story on that, that's not a campaign video. That's the thing we did for Sam, advertising, pushing out their party. But what we then did was we took these chocolate posters and we put them all over the Triangle in all of these like-minded stores. We were in the museums, we were at Whole Foods, we were at all these different places. We were in all these different breweries where Sam sells chocolate to as well. And then what we did was, on social media, we said, hey, come eat our chocolate, come to this, come to Ponysaurus was one of them. Come to Ponysaurus and eat this poster. And so people would come, so that was part of the invitation. And then the next day when people came, we actually created content off of that. So it just created this, like, all this content and all this PR around what they do, their chocolate completely in the center of the whole thing. And yet they are, one of the things I love about Videri is how devoted to craft they actually are in the chocolate itself, and also how devoted to craft they are in design. And so everything about it was living their values very, very strongly. And they were supporting the whole community. They were supporting all of these local businesses. There's a really cool store called Deco in Raleigh that sells like just really creative, cool stuff. Like they're one of them. So we were just created this kind of living, breathing thing for Videri. And their party was literally a line around the block of people trying to get in. It was just super cool. So. All right. Are we good on time? I did want to talk a little bit about Ponysaurus. That's the worst looking slide I've ever seen. It's all blown out, but I will just kind of go to, so we always wanted to, we talked a little bit about create our own brands, create our own luck. We've created a lot of brands for clients, but We've had some sort of aborted brands we tried to create and didn't work. But what happened here was we really wanted to work on a beer account. And Raleigh, the beer scene in North Carolina is just exploding. So we went and talked to all these different breweries, these small breweries, and they never had money, and they wanted us to do stuff for free. And I'm like, you're asking us to fund your businesses with all this work. Really cool people, but they're just like, we don't need money to do this. And I kind of came back and I like threw something on the desk from this one. I met with the CEO of one of the companies and I was like, damn it, you know? And I was like, we should do it ourselves. And this art director named Sean Sundholm, who worked there at the time, goes, I know a guy. And that's literally what happened. So he introduced me to a guy named Kyle Jansen, who is our brewmaster, who had been talking to Nick Johnson, who is our operations guy. And we all met over beer, and it's just been this crazy, weird kismet where we're these like brothers in beer now. And I don't know, 6 months later, like we launched Ponysaurus into the world. And so it's grown something like 22 times, 22x in the last 3 years. It's insane, and the plans for it are to go regional and then go national. So that's what we're trying to do. And the one thing about it that's been fun is it's proof of principle about what we believe as an agency, but also what we believe as a brewery, about putting your point of view into the world in a really strong way. And so I did want to show you one thing. You know, our reason to be, our why as a brewery is how do we use beer to make the community better? And I'm going to show you 2 ways we did it. So this first one was around the holidays. And I think these are both sort of HB2 related, but this first thing I'll show you. You want me to hit it? You want to do it?
You may have heard that all is not right in the great state of North Carolina. Some people just aren't playing nice, and some residents are feeling downright depressed. Well, we asked a simple question. Can we help our town spread happiness via Twitter during the holidays using what we do best, which is make delicious beer? Meet the Ponysaurus Holiday Spirit Measurer Thingy, an internet-connected, Twitter-reading beer tap that rewarded cheerful tweets with free beer. We hooked the machine up to our limited edition holiday brew, then programmed it to measure the sentiment of tweets originating in our hometown, letting us determine if the city as a whole was tweeting naughty or nice. Tweet nice, free beer. Tweet naughty, nothing. We used its integrated LED display to encourage patrons into tweeting nicely and tip the scales in the direction of merriment. So, did we improve Durham, North Carolina's spirits? Out of over 1 million tweets processed, 96% of the Ponysaurus mentions were positive, which led to an actual increase of cheerful tweets by 37% over the same period last year in Durham. At Ponysaurus, we're better at beer than math, but you can't argue with science.
So we've been written up, the brewery's been written up everywhere. The beer is really good. I know you should not trust me on that, but the beer is really, really, really good. And we've been written up everywhere. We were named one of the top 50 new breweries in America by, I can't remember what beer blog it was. I should know that, shouldn't I? I've forgotten standing in front of you doing bad knock-knock jokes. So here's the thing though, HB2 is no joke. And so while the Ponysaurus voice on that is very much intact and very much about delight and fun, we also were really pissed about HB2 when it happened. I don't like what that says about our state. I don't think it represents our state. I think it represents certain parts of our state. Do you guys know what that is, the bathroom law? Yeah. It's a complete bullshit law, right? So the bathroom bill. So we said, well, what else can we do? What else can we do as a brewery, like to make the community better? How can we handle this? And so, sorry, that was all set up. So here's what I ran. I ran that, and it said something. You know, the post on Facebook was like, you know, here's what we think of the HB2 law, you troglodytes in the legislature, and I thought it was hilarious, you know, and then I felt immediately bad about it. Actually, like that night, we posted it at probably like 4. Like they announced it, and at 2 and at 4 o'clock we posted that. And then I started thinking, that is not how you respond to hate. Like, funny or not, it's not an appropriate response. So we kind of retrenched, we actually pulled it down. We retrenched and we started saying, what else can we do? So we created a brand called Don't Be Mean to People. And this idea of the beer itself was my brewmaster, Kyle Jansen, and another guy from a brewmaster from Mystery Brewing in Hillsborough. And they said, hey, let's collaborate on a beer together and we'll give all the profits to LGBTQ causes. And so then it became like, well, holy shit, why don't we pull every brewery in North Carolina into this thing? And so we ended up pulling in 40 different breweries, including New Belgium. New Belgium was part of it as well. They were donating ingredients, they were donating distribution, they were donating hops. Everybody was donating something to this thing. And we ended up launching it, and we made a ton of money. 100% of the profits went to a thing called Chords, which is a summer camp for trans kids, and other LGBTQ organizations in North Carolina. And so what now has happened is this thing got talked about everywhere. It blew up. It was on Fox News. It was in Huffington Post. It was in Men's Journal. It was in all of these. It just got written up everywhere, and we felt like we weren't just trying to have a positive effect on North Carolina. We were trying to tell America North Carolina is not full of assholes. You know, we don't all believe in this stuff. So don't be mean to people now. Now we're going, okay, now what do we do with this? Like, we have this really cool brand, Don't Be Mean to People. How do we take this now and maybe expand it out even past beer? And so that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out. That's something we're engaged in right now, is where do we take this thing and what can we do with it? And I call that Scary Thing 5 because I have no idea. I have no idea what to do with it. It's almost too much. It's almost that open brief. We can just do so many things. But it's an incredibly exciting kind of thing to think about. And I think, again, we want how can we have an impact. So this is now still for sale in our tap room, and you can still buy it all over the state. So, okay, one last scary thing. I'll be fast. So I just want to tell a quick story about why I wrote this. I'm writing a book. It comes out on November 6th. And I had a really profound shift when I had children. And I remember, like, the first time I looked into my son's eyes. My son's 21 now. But the first time I looked into his eyes, I looked down, and I didn't go, you adorable little consumer. He was my son, you know, he was the future. And we throw that word, you're gonna hear that word for the rest of your life, consumer. Who's the consumer? And I hate that word. I absolutely cannot stand that word, consumer. And as sort of my son grew up and my daughter came shortly after, and I look at my wife and my sisters and my parents and my family and my neighbors, none of them are consumers, they're human beings. So I think what's so interesting about that is I am on a bit of a crusade to stop using that word. I think we should all, and I invite you guys all to stop using that word. Being a consumer calls to mind like locusts descending on a field and then stripping the field and moving to the next field. And that's not who we are. That's not who we are. Now, the confluence of that, what's so great right now, is you guys. Because millennials and iGen, or sometimes known as Gen Z, are completely wired around this conversation in a way that my generation, Gen X and beyond, are not. And it certainly is with many of us. I am a Gen Xer. I'm a cynical Gen Xer. But you guys aren't. And so I wrote a book called The Belief Economy. I don't know if you can see that. But it's called The Belief Economy. And the belief economy is very simple. The buying power, the economic power of you guys and millennials. And I'm assuming there's some millennials in here and some Gen Z. Accenture did a study and said that millennials alone, by 2020, will control $1.4 trillion of economy. So if you just think about the power that you guys have to actually change everything, you vote with your wallet. You get to vote with your wallet, right? So I wrote this book, it's called The Belief Economy, and it is about creating belief-driven brands that are trying to create shared value in the world. And I just want to talk about shared value really quickly. Shared value, does anyone know what shared value is? So Google Michael Porter and shared value. He's a Harvard professor who also is a business consultant. But the idea of shared value, he has a TED Talk. If you watch his TED Talk, you'll see it. Shared value is the idea that business is in a better position to solve problems, the world's problems, than NGOs, churches, governments, things like that. Because what business does is solves a problem and then scales it. That's what they do. That's what a business does. They solve, the problem might be your underarm smell, right? But they solve a problem and then they scale it. And so when a business decides that they want to create, they want to live in a world of more than just a bottom line, they can actually make tremendous change. And it's happening everywhere. Well, part of what I'm saying in the book is we can also use our marketing and our advertising to do just that. What if we actually use our advertising to solve problems when the business model isn't solving a problem? And a great example of that is the Dove campaign for Real Beauty, right? It's had some misfires, but largely that's a conversation I'm really excited about for my daughter, who is 18 and going to Berkeley Music School in Boston. Like, I love that that conversation is happening. So now Unilever is also committed to changing their business models. So this is all happening and it's all very powerful, but I wanted to write a book and say, well, here, brands, here's how you do that. Here's the way to create belief-driven brands. And a belief-driven brand is a brand that stands for something bigger than what they make or do. They stand for something and they have a point of view in the world. So that book, it comes out on November 6th. I'm really excited about it. I'm super nervous about it because you see, like, you know, Seth Godin. I'm a huge fan of Seth Godin. Seth Godin writes a book and you just assume, like, well, he's a genius and it's awesome and I get some great distinctions out of him. You know, I read him every day. Well, now it's me putting a book out and I'm like, oh God, everyone's gonna think I'm an idiot, you know? And so, so that's something that I'm doing. I'm being open with you and sharing my anxiety. But I also, when I decided to do it, I had the same feeling and I was like, well, screw it, I'm gonna do it. Let's do it. So it's written and it's in production and it comes out November 6th. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you. So please, everybody, go buy it. We're gonna put it on Amazon for 99 cents, a Kindle version for 99 cents. So it should be very affordable. So, and if you don't like it, send me an email and I'll refund your $1. I really will. So the one thing I just wanted to cover before I'm done is to talk about what you're afraid of. And here's the little process that I go through. And this is something my wife did to me when I was starting the agency. She asked me these questions. And it was when I was really doubting, like, maybe I should go take a job in New York. It's going to be sure money, and you know, versus staying here in Raleigh and the economy. And she just said, listen, what's the best thing that could happen? And we talked about it. And she said, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I went, the worst thing that could happen is I have to go to New York and make more money than I'm even making now. And what's standing in the way of it? And it was getting people to do it with me, because I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And this just fundamental, very simple line of questioning made me go, fuck yeah, let's do it. John, let's get married. Fuck yeah. But you know, and there is this wonderful thing of, like, you should be saying fuck yeah or fuck no. Like, if you're going to do something, you should be excited about it and you should want to do it. And so that's the process that I use, and I would ask you in your lives, like, use that simple process. Ask your question, because often the worst thing that can happen isn't that bad. It really isn't that bad. We build these anxieties up of the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that'll happen if that book sucks and doesn't do anything is that I'll have a book and go, I wrote a book. Like, that's the worst thing that's going to happen. I might get ridiculed on, like, Agency Spy, but I get ridiculed on Agency Spy anyway. We all do. So, so I just saw this yesterday. I love Creative Mornings. Is there a Creative Mornings here? Yes. It's so great. Like, we have this really great Creative Mornings in Raleigh too. But I just saw this yesterday in a Creative Mornings email, and so I grabbed it on there. People who avoid risks are rewarded with the safety they achieve. People who take the risks are rewarded with the adventures they have. And I think that's a really beautiful summation. So that's what I got.